Welcome to today's conversation, Footprints, our podcast that tells stories of our elders, their moments when they were leaders, their highs, their lows, and how they prepared for the season of transition and how they're doing now. And today's guest is commonly called Rev D. She's cool like that, but I have to call her Miss Barlow. She was my teacher, so yes. I'm almost kneeling down when I get in the podcast. Anyhow, Rev D, you're welcome, and please let us know how you'd like us to call you throughout this conversation, and also tell us a bit about yourself. I know it's a long arc, so just pull out something from that heart of memory so that our listeners can know who you are.
Yeah. Anyone younger than me can call me Rev D.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're senior to me, you have to call me Reverend, Canon, Diana, Mirembe Nkesiga. You have to be official. But all the younger people can call me Rev D.
Yes. It's such a cool name. I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was born in 1960. That opens doors for me. And I was born and raised at Kabanyoro University Farm then, now Morick. First 20 years of my life. I lived next door to Gayaza High School.
Did you ever think for a moment, what if I don't go to this school? When did you start desiring to go to Gayaza?
Oh no, it wasn't our desire. It was her mother's. It was a must. My
must.
Mother was a Gayaza girl. And the Barlow family is known to be Budonian. So Dad said, Mom said, no, I mean, we cannot be right. It was actually controversial. We're the gate that divides Kabanyoro and Gayaza with house number 1. Is this boarding school or day school?
Yes.
Second child to Mary Nantongo and Hugo, Edward Barlow. And my mom was a teacher. And she later worked Bank of Uganda. My father ran the university farm. And yes, I was a very shy kid. Very shy. I could sink into the ground if you looked at me.
Really?
These are things that I think there are things God puts in your life so that you can use them to help another person sometime. And so we went to Nakasero Primary School. KK, Kampala Kindergarten. I think we didn't realize we're even privileged. We just thought, okay. I mean, we were the ones who lived in the village, Kabanyoro, and everybody else lived in the city. And later came to Gayaza. A lot of transformation happened there. That's where I grew my confidence, my identity. Yes, and I later came back and taught. And
you need to tell our listeners that I was a bright student.
She was an excellent literature student, and that's why the creative side of her, I'm really proud of you, Jackie.
Diana was an amazing teacher, and it's interesting that your mother was also a teacher. And we don't even mean teacher just in the sense of standing up in front of class. I think when we view teaching in that frame, it really minimizes it. But I think teaching for me is being able to very simply, plainly make learning interesting, whatever that learning might be.
Yes. One of the gifts God has given me is to love people. I don't know why. I realized the power of loving people. And so, people sometimes don't remember what you did, but they remember how they felt around you. And I think that's why I fell into, I don't want to know if it's a trap or was pushed towards my core, because of while I was teaching. Remember, I was assistant chaplain of the chapel, Gayaza, when I came back, it was after 79. Some young girls who I had mentored came back, and they confided in me that during the war, they had been raped. I was horrified. I struggled. Who's this God? These kids gave their lives to the Lord. I told them as they were going that God will protect them. And I became uneasy with God. That's where my restlessness. The beautiful thing is that I didn't go looking for answers outside. I took my anger right back at God. Mm-hmm. And I said, why? I mean, what did they do to deserve this? And where are the answers in the scriptures? Where are they? I read the scriptures. I had nothing. Can I still tell them, give thanks in all circumstances? Can I tell them God still loved them? Didn't they call upon the Lord when these guys approached them? What, I didn't understand. And that's why I think Joyce Meyer is a person I really listen to, because of her experience and how frank she was about it, and how she's now grown to be a totally. I love her struggles because I just she's knows
real and relatable.
She's real. I really like that she has fights with God. And I used to think, oh my God, if people knew that me and God would fight, people used to say, what's up with you? And I'd say, oh, I'm limping. I said, what? God and I had a fight. You remember?
Yeah.
Said, I have a dislocated limb.
Yeah.
Jacob.
So wrestling with
God.
Yeah.
And that's when I began to be comfortable with God. You can wrestle with him. He will this is not too big for him. He will sort you out. He will bring you back to himself in the mess, and you're trying to comprehend what was going on. And as a result of that, I said, okay, I'm going to go and do theology. People said, hey, isn't this about the time you should get married? Well, I went and did theology. Those experiences also molded me. And it was during that time that I felt my call to full-time ministry. And how many years now? Oh gosh, since 1989. I don't know how to count.
Those are many.
How many?
Yeah.
Those are many. And by the way, this year, it's 50 years since I gave my life to the Lord.
Oh my goodness.
50 years walking with Christ. Yes. Or Christ, I don't know which.
Or Christ walking with you.
Oh yeah, yes. Sometimes.
Oh.
Yes.
So
and
do you remember the date? Do you remember when?
No, I didn't have one of those date time things. I know it was in October 1974.
Wow. Are you going to celebrate it? Will you do something?
I want to do something. I actually put it on the Focus WhatsApp platform and the Gayaza High School platform because we celebrated 50 years since we joined S1. This year we had a Thanksgiving. We made uniforms. We dressed up. Yes, a class.
Yes, the pictures were going around.
Yes.
We're celebrating 40 years.
Oh, Bambi.
I know more Bambi. 50 years. Wow. So it coincided with...
Yes. So that's the year I gave my life around. Yeah. And that's why it gave me my identity. Because for me, many people are like, Jesus died for you because you are a sinner. And I'm thinking, I don't think. Okay, perhaps my biggest sin at that time as a child was anger. And I think anger to do with shyness and feeling, you know how kids are, they pick on you when they recognize you are not that confident. Yes. And so you put up a front and therefore you are angry. And then you want to right here and you all the time. Yes. And what attracted me to Christ was his value on me. I say, hey, me. It's not for the crowd. It's not, it's me, Diana. He's interested in me. And he has a purpose for me. He put me here for a purpose. I like, hey, that's when I started thinking, okay, I don't have to grow into Jackie's glorious. What I see as Jackie's, she's a confident teenager and whatever. No, I grow into Diana, nobody else. There's nobody else like me, and God is interested, and He wants to use me.
So, Diana, when you think about your journey in leadership, how has that sense of identity worked for you as you lead?
Well, for me, it started with making me, well, not right at the beginning, but I've become comfortable with who I am. And I give that which only I can give. There's being overwhelmed by, wow, so, they preach, they teach, the responses they get from the pulpit, in public and everything. And it's only when I began to love myself properly that I was able to love other people and be more compassionate towards them. When I first gave my life to the Lord, there was a sort of self-righteous. I think, now I've got it right. I'm walking with the Lord, and other people, can they come into this? So I without intending it, there was a type of broccoli that excluded people and didn't draw people back to Christ. But as God kept molding me through my circumstances, I came back, oh, I am who I am because of you.
Yes.
And that in everybody, there's a person of value, there's a purpose, there's a call to their life. And we shouldn't miss out on it. So even if this one is looking wounded at the moment, not looking quite right, there's something in there that can come out and they can embrace their true self. And it took me time, because I was the type of like, why don't you give your life to the Lord? You're a sinner.
He is, FYI, not to self. Yes.
But when I grew to understand the amazing grace of God, it made me think differently.
Yeah.
Actually, a great part of my transition was, again, working with hurting, wounded people, because I later went on to work with people living with HIV/AIDS. And people were sort of rejected in society. For a little while, when I was in South Africa, we were working with the poorest of the poor in slums. And I saw God raise people up and give them back their dignity. And you're like, wow, is this the same person? And the power of that, I watched a young, we thought she was an old judge. She was probably my age. I don't feel I'm old. The time at the peak of HIV/AIDS, she had been thrown out of her community, and she was living somewhere in the bushes. And there's a lady friend of mine who rescued her, and I was the administrator of the AIDS Haven then. That was us women who were ordained being put at, they won't accept in the parish, so we put you in the periphery, be part of a church project. So there was Jean Underwood and myself. I think we were the first two clergy women. And so we were given to run the AIDS Haven. I was the administrator. She had a nursing background. And so she took the care side. And then together we did the spiritual side. And so the whole thing of working with the wounded, I learned what is called the listening gospel. There's so many times we're like telling you how to put your life right. You need Christ. But there's power in listening to people's stories. You meet someone with HIV and part of you judges them at the beginning.
I know what you did last summer. Kind of thing, eh?
Yes.
Because many times it's assumed.
Okay, but God is graceful.
Yeah.
And even when you're saying it, you're saying it with some arrogance, really. Like, let me help you.
Yeah.
You're dying. Let me help you. And as I listened, I walked with 16 girls at the university. All Black young girls who now with the New South Africa had the opportunity to go to one of the best universities, and then they discover their HIV. And I listened to their stories one by one. They knew what I stood for and never preached at them. Yeah. And I want to tell you, one by one, they would come and say, I know what to do. I said, what now? What's the next thing? No, I'm giving my life to Christ. I was like, hey, really? And you just represented Christ's love, Christ's compassion. You walked with them. This is a group of young girls. I lost only one. We said, we are not going to die. I'm honorary HIV. They made me honorary HIV.
Wow.
They said, Reverend, you have to eat correctly. You have to do... You can't just wait to fall sick then start telling people about diet and stuff. And so we made a pact that we will not die until medication came. Actually, one of them called Olive said, I will just die from the fact that the cure has come, from the excitement.
Yes.
But now I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
And we did that in very small ways. And when I heard people's stories, I realized what great privilege I had. People didn't even know what it is to grow up with a family. People didn't know where they belonged. People didn't have identity, and therefore people abused them.
Yes.
It's amazing. I think as church leaders, as ministers, we need to stop and listen. And it's the same thing that I picked up at All Saints with alcoholics.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was scared of them. Those that they chose it. And then you hear a story, and then like, you can't point from the pulpit and think someone will come to the Lord. You have to walk with these people. You have to walk, and they'll mess up and they'll fall apart, and God will sort them out. And so that became me. Meeting these wounded girls launched me into wanting to know, what does God say about this pain? How does he fix it? How does he make them whole? How does he use them? Are they worth anything? And being placed at the periphery. God did his own training, because I didn't go through the normal, you're in a parish, this is how things work. And I was quite an odd dog when I came back. Yes.
No, but wow, I'm just, as you speak, several things have come to me, which I will share, and then we'll cut it and I'll come back. But self-identity, I think, leads to depth in empathy.
Yes.
Because when you feel seen, you can see others.
So true.
And then that leads you to the wounded.
Because you can see beyond them.
Yes, you see beyond the wounds.
What
I'm not my wound.
I'm not what happened to me.
Yes, what happened to me. And then that allows you to minister and to lead in a certain way. And I love the listening, because I think, again, confident in who I am because I have been seen, so I can see others, and part of seeing people is listening to them.
True.
So Rev D, tell us, when did you first become a leader?
Wow. The day my classmate told me, you're a class monitor, I couldn't believe I had been chosen. I was from primary school. I was the shyest kid. I didn't speak. And suddenly someone thought I should be the leader. And it shocked me, but I took it on boldly. And I always remember my mom said, when I took you to nursery school at age 3, you're the only one of the 5 kids who never cried, who never even looked back to say, Mommy, I want to go back with you. When I left you at the steps of Kampala kindergarten, and I remember there was that, I don't know what Joyce Meyer calls it, about being courageous while being afraid or something. She puts the two together in a very interesting way. And I remember my older sister, I admired her. She used to come back from school. She had paintings and she had a new song, and I would try to copy her. Came Daddy, that's my song. You even sing it badly. Don't touch my painting. So I had come to school to get my own song and to also have a painting to take. So I remember when Mommy left me, I was actually scared. And I held on to the teacher's hand and I thought, I'm not looking back because I have to go and fetch my song. That's the sort of courage that when they said, you're class monitor, and I said, oh, okay, I'll do it. I did it being afraid. And it's amazing. Leadership for me didn't come from me. It always, people gave me the leadership and then they respected me. They're the ones who applauded me on, which I found amazing, because I thought, if you stand up, you've got to be a leader. I was thinking, the lady who told me, what's your name? Why isn't she the one leading us? She seems to know what she's doing or why she came to Gayaza. Me, I'm like, wow, praise the Lord, I made the mark. Got in. Simply that. And then, of course, when I gave my life to Christ, we were mentored by older girls. And you went to a senior 6 or a senior 5 with some tale like you didn't finish your homework and you're going to be in trouble with so-and-so. What do you do? I'm born again, and how do I do this? And they would encourage you, or you'd lose your stuff. And those were the testimonies. We started off with really babyish stuff. And being mentored was a great thing. It was a great thing. The people, you're doing it right. Go on. This isn't a bad thing. This isn't the end of the world. And I began to grow in myself. I could feel myself. I walked along with people like Beatrice Landa. She's my relative, but we became really good friends. And in the Christian club, they really, without saying, we're making leaders, it happened that people gave you responsibility and started giving you leadership. So become prefect, become Christian Union leader, and things, and you learn through that. Then there are people who also say, this is what you need to look like. It's more simple things like when you're taking the reading, taking control of the room. You don't say, this is the Gospel of St. Luke's. She would do that and we would see it. She said, no, you hold the Bible in this position so you can glance at it, but then you have control of your audience, your congregation, and you have confidence. Like, when you do like this, your voice is, practical tips. I always appreciate it. And people say, why do you have to teach us how to read the scripture? I said, it's not about accent. It's about audibility. It's public worship. It's not your private Bible study. This is how you do it. This is how you present yourself. And this is how you're heard well. So all those tips we were given, we didn't know they were molding us into certain leaders. Simple things, sitting in the dining hall. I remember when we declared a fast and we said we won't go to the dining hall. Of course, the big temptation of being hungry now. Namumonde is looking at you. You head the table, you sit, you serve others, all right? And those things stay with you. And those are the things that mentor you into etiquette, how you communicate with others. I promise you, most times I was thrust into leadership.
That's very interesting. So do you remember, again, going back in history, choose whatever moment you remember, what was a leadership high, a moment that you were truly proud of yourself, and then as a leader, and then what might have been like one of the lowest where your leadership was tested?
I remember, I can remember the testings more. Can I start with the testing?
Yeah, sure.
I remember being thrust into being administrator of the AIDS Haven. I knew nothing about administration. Thought I'm going to preach the gospel. And I'm like, how does this fit in? And it was a new ministry project. It had a lot of money with it. And I remember being pulled down by one of the senior people I was working with. And I felt, because I think I tended to lean to people and caring for people rather than administration and, making sure things are in order. I would take over a patient and whatever. And I remember some words came out like, we don't even know what you're doing here. And I was feeling, my God, I've been given this title as administrator. I'm a foreigner. They weren't sure if women should be in the ordained ministry. And now this nasty thing is being said like, you're incompetent. And I remember thinking, goodness, this isn't what I asked for. And I said, maybe I should just get out of this stuff. Let me maybe it's true. I started doubting myself. Maybe it's true. I shouldn't let me go and just do what I know best. And my husband looked at me and said, Gwe, with all that I know about you, can what someone say? Take it, reflect on it. If some things are true, try to learn. If others are not true, just pick up your head and move forward. And I'm like, is that how they do it? That's how you do it. So I remember that she embarrassed me in front of junior people. That was really, my confidence took a... And then being really proud of myself. Oh, let me see. Oh my goodness me. I think I've recently been very proud of myself. I've been looking at the church, which I didn't step away from because I believe I'm still serving. But I was a little worried at the teaching and where we are going as a church. I don't mind the charisma. I don't mind the beautiful music. But I was looking at people's walk with Christ and the quality of preaching and interpreting the scriptures. As a senior, I was becoming very critical, and I'm thinking, if we've stepped aside from leadership, and I'm talking about the leadership with titles, because I think you always remain a leader with a title, without a title. And I said, what do we do? I'm a canon in this church. And we said, people appeal to us. We don't know where our church is going. So we said, let's do it not from the point of view that someone preaches different from you or does things different. Let's look at the teaching and analyze it properly. So a few people had to review a book from where the teaching came from. Mm-hmm. And we were like, yeah, this is where the line is. This isn't biblical. And we were doing it in a way that we didn't want to embarrass the person. We wanted to be able to teach people. This is okay. Now, when you go this way, you the way people will live out their faith is not holistic. It's not the gospel. And so I felt like I was sidelined. People were too afraid to sit and examine what was happening in the church. And a lot of seniors were calling me, you're a canon, so why are you a canon? Can't you put them right? And I was failing. And then a group of youth came for a retreat at my retreat center. And they're at Ebenezer Chapel, which is a chapel built by one of our parishioners on top of Eliana Hotel in Chigoa. And they came. And I was excited. I remember they were kids. They were the kids I chased from playing the guitar under my window and all this thing. They've all grown up. Some are married, some are... And I'm like, okay, so I'm like, you guys, you're now the leaders. Yeah. And they had a planning retreat. So because I knew them and I had missed them, I went and I sat. And I couldn't believe the content. They were very serious. They were very grounded in the word. They're teaching. And I said, I called some of the team and I said, guys, we didn't do a bad job. Yes. Here are people who are serious with the word. They love God with their minds as well, not just with their emotions. And they want the church to go forward. And they are saying, you guys, you taught us well. And that's why we are who we are today. I felt so proud. Mm-hmm. But it was a team that we worked with. And I'm like, wow, this seed, the kids. Because there were times when you look at the kids and you think, oh, goodness, are we impacting?
Yes. Yeah.
And they were saying the same thing as me. They were saying, what's happening to the teaching in the church? And I said, you guys who wanted to do everything and anything, yeah, you taught us well.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. And now, as we, your life goes on, and as every leader will one day have to confront the issue, transition happens.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that moment? What were the fears? What were the struggles? And where have you landed?
Okay. Transition, we're talking about retirement.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lie.
It's
a
lie.
fallacy.
Yes.
There's no retirement.
Yes.
But when we were in South Africa with Solomon, we worked like proper Ugandans. We never took a day off. We never went on holiday. We were like, I think something was put in us at that time. Like, you can't afford it, so work. Mm. And someone looked at us. We were working in a slum area. We had young children. We had a young marriage. And this was complex. And at some stage, I was dealing with people dying left, right, and center. AIDS, what? They called me because of, when you have a compassionate heart, people tend to use you. And sometimes, you don't know when to say no.
Yes.
And so I think I was getting like a breakdown. Mm. And so I told Solomon, I said, I'm not coping. I would like to go and see a psychologist or a psychiatrist and just help me put my life back together. And he said, Hugo, we'll sort it ourselves. I wasn't improving. I could see my behavior, my reactions, they were not healthy. And so he said, it was so funny. He said, are we going to take it off our health insurance? I said, yeah, why are you paying for it? It will be a mark on your ministry. But you went to see a psychologist. How Ugandans are. If you see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, So, whereas in the Western world, it's normal. Every so often you go and see a counselor and you review your life and put things in order. If you're killing yourself from whatever, you can change. So I went, and it was so funny, Jackie. I just have to tell you this. Solomon, forgive me. He parked behind a tree, and they'll say, what is she doing there? Yes. And I got in there, and I went and I saw this psychologist. And the psychologist was so funny. He was asking me questions, and I said, hold on. Let me ask you a few questions before I agree you'll be my psychologist. Are you Anglican? Are you a Christian? Yes. Well, okay. Now you can be my psychologist. She said, hey, hold on. Who's? I said, don't waste my time with those questions you ask. I don't have the money. It's 200. That time it was 200 rand per hour. I said, I will tell you what my problem is, because I don't have time to waste. So tell me, how did you grow up? What was your relationship with your father? Yes, I told him. Yeah. So I went in there, and I really felt I was able to sort out my life. It was you're just burning out. You are totally burning out. So some family, I think, caught wind of it. And they came, they took our children, their children and our children were friends, and they took us to a little calf farm where they had these old type houses and they grew strawberries and they had a beautiful garden. Just for Solomon and I to get away from it all. You come from AIDS, you come back to a slum.
Yes.
People, yeah. So we took 3 days off, just resting and talking. We did 1 day, we did our own retreat, then we'd talk about it in the evening, about your personal life, then about our marriage, then about our ministry. And we came out with visions. And one of the visions was that we need to have a vision for our marriage. We just got into this marriage and we actually don't know where we're going. We're just serving the Lord. Yes. 2 children are part of ministry. We mustn't forget, we are always, this one's gone off here, someone's flown off there, the other, whatever. And then 3, no matter what your call is, you are human. There must be ministry to yourself. And this is where we got the vision of, when we retire, we'll have a retreat center and we'll minister to people. People in Uganda are workaholics. And because that was a healing time for us. And so we had a vision. And when I came back to Uganda and I wrote my personal creed, one of the things I told Solomon, since I wrote back to tell them we were coming back, I didn't seem to be accepted. I said, here we go again with Uganda. I had said to myself, I can return. We'll do this retreat thing. Still ministry. I don't have to have titles. And finally, I got back into All Saints. But when Bishop Zach was convincing me they needed me, I said, you don't need me because you don't know how to treat women well. I told him that. He says, we've changed, we've grown, we need you. It took him 8 months to convince me to come to All Saints. And then at that stage, I told him, and at 55, I'm retiring. I'm giving you 10 years. I was 45 at the time. I'm giving you 10 years and I'm retiring. Of course, God's story, he always takes you on a different journey. But at 55, at 54, Solomon fell ill. So my whole life turned around and then eventually he passed on. And then I'm by myself. It was a very difficult time to make a major decision in my life. My children were at varsity. I think I was in a great part in denial. I was like, no, it's fine. We'll be fine. And I'm still trying to be the priest, forgetting that there's Diana to work with. And so that changed. And then there are some things that changed in 2019, going into 2020. Before COVID came, my children actually said I was the first human being who first got COVID. And I said, I didn't get COVID. Out of the blue, I had a fall flat on my face. I'm like, hey. I even told God, hey, is that how you take people? You just take them straight to heaven, no warning. Something told me, you need to slow down. And then the week after COVID, I was, hey, did you have...
I know.
I never had cough. I never had all those things. No taste. What? In my bed there, I started saying, God, what do I take on? I had taken a sabbatical 2017, which everybody thought was crazy, but was the best thing I did. Then I'm thinking, 2020, turned 60. God, what are you saying? I said 55, now I'm 60. So COVID was a time of praying, a time of renewal, a time of asking. And God kept telling me that you're going to stop or things are going to change for you. And I'm like, not in this season. It doesn't make economic sense. The retreat center cannot sustain itself. We've all been trying to manage here and there. And I stayed back. I came back to prayer. And people were calling me. Some lady said, something told me, as we've been praying, that you're leaving us. I said, how? I never told them. I said, how? I said, we have been praying, but God has been telling Reverend Diana is leaving you. So there were 3 different incidents that came through. And at that stage, they had offered me to go to St. Luke's in Tinda. Remember, I'm in Kabanyoro, small congregation, and everyone feels, now let's give her a big congregation. And I looked at St. Luke's in Tinda. How many years do I have? That was 2021. And St. Luke's in Tinda is like All Saints Cathedral. You don't go in there just and start ministry. You go, it takes 2 years to understand your congregation. You don't just use the style you used at All Saints. Walk with them, do ministry, but begin listening to them. Now, after the 2 years, the 3rd year, you start launching your vision. And then the next year, you're saying, bye. I said, that's not fair with St. Luke's. And St. Luke was so angry with me. Forgive me, St. Luke's. It was not fair. They had a long period with a priest who was unwell. And so they had different challenges. So I'm like, really? Now 2 years I'm studying you. I just begin my vision, then you tell me, put down your tools. So I told the Archbishop, I'm going to go and raise Pumna into my ministry. I don't have the resources. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I originally asked, I think it was a safe thing to be like, can you be semi-retired? What?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Just sort of ease into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my plan.
Yeah.
Like, can I be part-time?
Yes.
Can I be part-time and not be the leader of a parish and then slowly
Ease your way out.
Ease my way out? They said, if you don't take it, punk. I said, okay, God, and I'm left.
Yes.
It's you and me. And so, in a way, God had prepared me, but you can never be prepared enough to go into it. And one of the things I have done for myself is to realize, because you have fears. What are the fears? Finances. You've never worked in that area. You find someone else is doing all that. And you're just doing ministry. Finances. How do you maintain the place? How do you... What church? Your dad will... You know.
Yes.
How does this work? Who do you partner with? And something just gave me peace, because many people say, oh, you had something to go to. But actually it was so scary. It was so big. And probably all the finances are in that thing. They're not cash flow.
No.
And then after 3 years of COVID, everything was falling apart. It's true. A house that's not lived in, a cottage that's not used, just begins the paint starts peeling, the doors start. And you're like, what do you mean? This door was tough in early 2020. Now it's 2022. The thing is, no. I had to stop my workers. I said, guys, I can't pay you. It would be a lie that to say, I almost said, should I make it a COVID center? But what if I die of COVID? So it was, yeah. You went in having to learn all the way, but also make sure that you keep your connections with people. Yes. You didn't stop. Ministry came to me all through in COVID. You people say Budo is far. You live in the village. In COVID, Budo was not far. People drove with their children who wanted to commit suicide. They brought me people who are, hurting, but have been trapped inside. And people brought all their marital stuff there. They drove. Budo suddenly was not far. In fact, my people kept saying, Mommy, you're going to get COVID. Because they'll say, another person is waiting. We are keeping them in the chapel so they don't all come in at the same time. And I'm like, another person? Yes, Reverend Diana, we are coming. So God, in a way, confirmed that ministry would come my way. And he reminded me that even when Solomon was alive, because our plan was like, one of us will go run the retreat center while the other one's still in active service. And then, we'd make a plan to go. Then he's not there. They've cut me off suddenly. Well, I'm the one who asked for it.
Yeah.
And then COVID.
Like 3 big.
Then, also our partners left and went to the UK. They're senior to us, and so they felt it was time to leave. They left actually just before Solomon was diagnosed. So it was like, okay, now God, really? The people I lean on now, you've taken them. And so it was entirely God. And God used people. It's true, God used people, but resources came from places I least expected. And ministry came in ways that I didn't understand.
I'm thinking, listening to your story, that so yes, there are fears, genuine actually.
Oh yeah, they're still there, by the way.
They're still there. They don't.
I'm walking. I'm
one
walking
day at a time.
One day at a time, and say, "Oh, good, this has worked. Oh,
let's go on."
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that part of the transition is the props have to be taken away.
Yes.
I can, and the reason that picture came to mind is my father got an accident way back when, and he was had to learn how to walk with crutches. But now, so you're walking, but you have this that you're leaning on. So when they say, okay, now we're taking away one, you're just like, how will I? And then you take away the other. What? I might fall. I might. Yeah. So learning how, and I think we never know how much we're surrounded by crutches, or crutches in our lives have to be.
There are many.
Yeah.
One, every end of the month there's a salary that comes in, however little. You belong to a congregation. Some may not like you, but there'll always be someone who sort of gives you wisdom, supports you. I always talk about, if you read my book, the Marys behind the ministry. That there are always Marys, whether they're male or female. They're there. They support. Suddenly they love what you're doing and they support you. There's always a fall back sort of, And then there are the people. This is my sounding board. My husband was my sounding board. When I wanted to do something crazy, do you think they'll throw me out of the church? um, when you've preached or when you want to make a decision, this is your sounding board. Nakamba, think about this. And then he tells you not to do it and you do it anyway. But he's helped you think through. You may encounter this could happen. People might not like that. Are you still wanting to do it? Yes, I'm going to do it. And you do it with an expectation that it might not be received by all. So there's so many. There's the church is giving you fuel. I'm not getting roti at Kampala.
Yes. Wow.
Yes.
So how do you, as we wind this up, what would you tell a leader contemplating that black hole to get them, not even to get them through, but to, something they can ponder, think about, think on as they think about that transition?
One, it's important to plan. We had a plan. It didn't work out. But at least I knew I was stepping into a vision that we had talked to God about from the beginning. To also be aware. Not everyone will have the same resource, the same support, whatever. To be aware you're going into it. And to go in knowing you can, if you don't have a health, even if you have a health challenge, go in knowing you will serve. You will serve. Even if it's from your bed and you're praying for people from your bed, you are going to, if you go in saying, okay, so today is day one of mine, what am I going to do? You will die. you will die. I have 3 cows. It's also part of the people. You people from the West always do that. And so when I was leaving Kabanyoro, said they've given me a cow. So I decided in my heart, I'm going to get a real cow. I have the space for a cow. My friend was from Senda Cow, so I said, how do we set up for zero grazing? Long story short, I have 3 cows, 2 are expecting, so I'll have 5 cows by next year. Nantongo, Nambiru, and Zawidi.
Oh, Bambi.
Yes.
Yes.
And you know that those things, they keep me going. These things have to be fed, they have to be healthy. I went in learning. And I kept saying, my dad would be so proud of me, so proud of me. He said, Kabanyoro things never went to waste. So, yes. And also remain in touch. Don't think people are going to come to you.
Yeah.
So I decided from the beginning, okay, this is going to be my church where I am ministered to. You have to have that one. And why it is All Saints Reza is because I mentored a lot of those people, and I went to them and I said, just give me permission to be a member and not up front and whatever. You can invite me once in a while. So you need to take charge of what you're going to do. Don't go in not knowing. It might take a different direction, but at least name it. Just like my personal creed, name it. And you begin walking towards that. Also, that's when I also, of course, during that time, I wrote my book, but I was taking my time. And when someone bullied me into handing over the script, and I went, it's not finished. Oh, we have a competition, hand it in. And it won. And I'm like, hey, how did it win? It was incomplete. And that also writing my story helped. But of course I didn't. I had planned. We were asked to give 300 words in some magazine about our ministry. And I'm thinking, hey, I've been in ministry 30 years and you want 300 words? Now I'll write a book when I retire. So there are things I decided I would do before I was retired. And I thought about retirement, and it wasn't easy. You lose the glitz, the glamour, the titles, and I said, oh guys, bye. You were putting me in a place where I wasn't going to get to heaven, because if I fell off that pedestal, you'd all say, hey, she fell down.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, so it's important to actually name it.
Yeah, name it and plan it. Thank you so much for your time, Diana. I know the story could go on and on and on.
It's 60 years, 63.
63.
Yeah, and each day has a story.
I know, right? And each day has a story. So thank you for telling us part of the story of 63 years, almost in 63 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
And we're so honored, and we will ponder your words. Leaders out there, name it, plan it. Name it and plan it. It's coming. You might as well name it and plan it. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, thank you so much for listening to us. Until next time when we bring you another guest, this is Footprints Podcast.